But tell me this, what do you love about being a Black woman?
Everything.
Come on now.
Everything.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ricky, and welcome to another episode of Turn to Your Neighbor, the show where me and some of my very good friends invite you into some of our most intimate and sometimes ridiculous conversations and debates. And today, I am joined by some of my very good friends who happen to be Black women. And over the years, we have had many conversations about the joys and sometimes the difficulties of being a Black woman in America. But I can honestly say that I have enjoyed seeing them grow into the beautiful women that they are today. My name is Ricky. This is Turning Your Neighbor. And today we're talking about being a Black woman in America. So without further ado, let's meet our special guest for today.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Jones. I'm a senior user experience designer at Think Company.
Hello, I'm Alexis Bowie. I'm a family therapist.
Hi, I'm Shalana Sample. I am a speech language pathologist.
Hello, I am Brittany Wachuku, and I am an assistant professor of social work.
Awesome. So I got some really educated friends, to say the least. All right. So let's get started today. And my first topic, I definitely want to address a hot topic that's been all around America, all on social media, the news, when it comes to Miss Brianna Taylor. So for those who don't know, on March 13th in Louisville, Kentucky, Brianna Taylor, a 26-year-old Black woman, was killed in her home by Louisville police. The police entered her home in the middle of the night, executing a no-knock search warrant. Brianna's boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend, thought the police were intruders. He fired one shot, which hit an officer in the leg. The police fired a total of 32 shots, 6 of those shots hitting and ultimately killing Brianna Taylor. Her boyfriend was unharmed. So fast forward 194 days later, the court ruled that none of the officers should be prosecuted for the death of Brianna Taylor. Now, I know this is all fresh. It's actually, the ruling was just a couple of days ago, but I really would like to know your honest feelings about the whole Brianna Taylor case, and what was your reaction to the ruling?
To me, it was ridiculous. Somebody needs to be held responsible for her death, and they did not do that. And the whole incident is just so sad. It makes me super sad. And every time I think about it, I'm like, she could have been me. She could have been my cousin. She could have been, anybody that I know, my friends. She was innocent and she did not deserve to die. She should be living. So.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a sense of hopelessness. After George Floyd and everything that happened, this was getting so much attention and her case was starting to get so much attention. And I think up until this point, we haven't seen such a united reaction to something like this. And I think it kind of set all our expectations, like action will be done and justice will be served. Mm-hmm. And see that this has been acknowledged from the New York Times, from all of these high platforms that an injustice occurred, and for the verdict to still not be in her favor, it kind of left me with a feeling of like, what do we do now to matter and to be seen?
Right.
Yeah, I think for me it was like disgust, similar to what like Chelsea was saying, to just the feeling of hopelessness. To see that the value of Black lives in general, the value of our life is slim to nothing. But then they had all different kinds of things to say about George Floyd, why it was justifiable for him to be killed and he's resisting arrest. But there was nothing to be said to justify the murder of Brianna Taylor. And to still see that her murderers, because that's what they are, can just go free and get a slap on the wrist for endangering some neighbors, shooting up a neighbor's house. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's disgusting. It really is, and it's sad, and it speaks volumes to the value of Black lives, and more specifically, Black women's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my immediate reaction, similar to everyone else, was just immediate devastation. She didn't deserve this. We don't continue to deserve this. And I think I just kept asking myself and my network, what can we do? This is happening consistently. This year has been hectic. Like, what is it that we can do? And then I became angry because I feel there's this assumption for our community that we aren't into the details. And I think with her case in particular, and I was watching the New York Times piece, this was one of those cases where information was just lacking in all corners. And just the fact that information continues to be withheld in these various cases, it's disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, we don't deserve this. She didn't deserve that.
Yeah, to that point, like, that was a conversation I've been having a lot recently with how they're coming up with the Brianna law, and they're coming up with like having magazine covers with her face on it and doing all these grand gestures, but acting like we're going to ignore what we're looking for here. And assuming that all of these nice gestures towards our community and towards the Black community is enough when justice isn't being served. And what we're like, you're giving us street names and you're painting murals and you're making covers, but all we are asking for is justice. When someone is murdered, that people who murdered them are put to jail and justice is served for them. And I don't understand why that's so hard to connect.
Right.
It just exposes so many holes in our justice system. That we've experienced for years. I know I have my own experiences with the law as a Black man in America, but I'm curious, what are your experiences with law enforcement throughout your life? Have you had any encounters, or like, what's your experience?
So I lived in Louisville for a little bit. I went to the University of Louisville for undergrad and grad. And so with this case in particular, I'm very familiar with the law enforcement down there and just the racial profiling that exists. I was pulled over because my license plate was from Pennsylvania. And when I was pulled over, I asked the officer, sir, was I speeding? I was making a right turn, so I knew I wasn't speeding. And he said, no, you just look suspicious because your license plate is from Pennsylvania. And I said, how do I look suspicious? Meanwhile, I'm 2 weeks away from graduating. And he was like, are you sure you're not smuggling drugs from Pittsburgh to Kentucky? And I said, sir, I am a student at the University of Louisville. I am 2 weeks away from graduating. I am not smuggling drugs. And so he asked me, if I pop your trunk, will I find weapons? Will I find drugs? I said, no, you can. And I started laughing because I'm like, are you serious? This is me, And he said, well, pop your trunk. I want to see. And he searched me and obviously found my textbooks in the trunk. And he was just like, do you know where you are? And I said, sir, I am a student down here. I know exactly where I am. He was like, well, in the area, I was on the west, coming from a Rite Aid that was in West Louisville. And he said, I don't want to see you over here again. This is a really dangerous part of the city. There's a lot of violence, a lot of gang-related activity. You really shouldn't be over here. And then let me go.
Wow.
Mind-blowing. Yeah, mind-blowing.
And
I tried to turn it around like he was doing something for your good.
Right.
Yeah, so I completely, with this case, when they're talking about, law enforcement in Louisville, and I know the New York Times also talked about just the heavy racial profiling that exists down there. It's very, very true. Very true. Louisville has a lot of work to do.
Wow. Well, anybody else have an experience with law enforcement, or just, maybe not you directly or someone you know?
I'm blessed to not have experienced anything personally. I know that whenever I interact with police, they're pulling me over or pulling someone I know over. It always brings a sense of like fear and immediate tension to me because I'm worried about their safety and I'm worried about my safety. My sister went to Bloomsburg, and I've heard the horror stories that have happened at Bloomsburg, especially back in the day when y'all was there. And
Wasn't that far back in the day? Hold up.
yeah, just a little back. But,
It was bad.
I've heard the experiences at Bloomsburg, and the one that has always stuck in my mind, and especially just growing up and being a young adult and attending parties, and that always made me more vigilant, was when I think you all were waiting outside of a party to go in, and the cops raided that party and were pepper spraying people and hitting them with bats and overly excessive force is probably an understatement, but just the amount of force that was put on that party before it even really popped off. And I remember Courtney telling me how, you may have to cut that out, I don't know if she wants to say her name, but I remember her telling me that when the cops came into the party, there was a white person in the middle recording it untouched. The cops was just swarming around him and attacking all of the Black people in the party before anything happened. Like, there was nothing going on. And ever since then, that story has always stuck with me, that we are not safe and that we are immediately predators even when we're doing nothing at all. So that's just always kind of resonated with me and always put me a little bit on edge whenever I'm moving anywhere or doing anything.
Yeah, I was there, so I remember that vividly. And yes, it's accurate. I believe it was either it was homecoming or it was some party as such. And yeah, I don't know if, I think maybe a small fight had like ensued in line because people were always pushing in line. But the amount of force and the amount of backup that was used, and not only were they pepper spraying, but there were dogs. Like, it looked like something out of the 1960s civil rights movement. I mean, it was horrible. And, you know, the Black student population came together and unified to speak about this and speak out about this, about how unjust and how unfair it is that whenever the minority students, the Black students wanted to have a party, you had to have so much security. You had to go through so much hoops and bounds. And then even after you did all that, I mean, the amount of force that was used was just disgusting compared to, I mean, you know, the frat parties can get just as bad.
Or worse.
And we didn't see, you know, they're out there throwing rocks and beer cans at the police, and they just like, oh gosh, you know, you guys are too much. But to also relate to what Brittany has stated, I was pulled over while I was out in the counties of Philadelphia, and it was during rush hour, and I was talking to my sorority sister on the phone, and it was on Bluetooth though, I was being safe. And I'm like, hold on, I think I'm getting pulled over. And I wasn't speeding, I wasn't doing anything illegal. So I was just like, maybe they're not trying to pull me over. So I pulled into like a hotel driveway, and the cop followed me. So I'm like, well, stay on the phone with me, because this might have been around the time of like Trayvon Martin and everything else that was happening. So I'm like, stay on the phone with me, because I don't know what can go down. And she did. And I said, you know, police officer, you know, sir, why are you pulling me over? He said, oh, I thought your tags were expired. And I'm like, you thought my tags were expired? That's the reason. And I'm like, that's the reason to pull me over during rush hour? Like, because you thought my tags were expired? And he walked around my car and looked at my state tags and looked on the back of my car for my registration tags. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, there wasn't a sorry. He didn't even try to make an excuse like, I'm doing this for your safety. It was just like, oh, okay. And he just got in his car and left. And I was just like, really? And for me, I wasn't used to growing up afraid of the police. Because to be honest, I was raised the majority of my life in the suburbs, and it was just different. Like, the cops were always a a presence, a vivid presence right there, you know, in the neighborhood, and they waved and how you doing? They were at our school and hi, how you doing? So my first horror story was at Bloomsburg for, you know, that party. And when I say it was traumatic, just to see my friends being pepper sprayed, I wasn't caught in the crossfire because I was already in the party. And it sort of happened outside of the party that the police were attacking everyone. But it was just like my husband, my boyfriend then, he was pepper sprayed. And it was just, it was sad and uncalled for. And it's a shame that some people grow up and all they know are those horror stories of the police. And it's unfortunate.
It is.
Wow. So I haven't had any like major run-ins with law enforcement. A speeding ticket here, but that was, that was justified for them pulling me over. But now when I am around police officers, I do get scared. Like you were saying, something growing up, you were, taught, police officers are there to help you. Police officers are, our safety, our community helpers. But even when I drive past a police officer now, I'm like so nervous. Even when I know I haven't done anything wrong, I get scared. I'm like, all right, they can go ahead of me. Get from behind me. You don't need to be with me. And then even now when I'm teaching one of my kiddos, like when we go over like who is a police officer and what do they do, the answer is supposed to be keep you safe. And then sometimes I'm like, that's not it. That's not the answer anymore sometimes, because it's not keeping us safe. They're not keeping us safe. They're intentionally harming us and killing us in some instances. So whenever that question comes up when I'm working with my kids, I always think about how sometimes, their families probably have had some bad experience with a police officer, or have seen it on television. So they, are exposed to, not so good things when it comes to police and law enforcement. But then on the other hand, I have family members who are in law enforcement. So it's like, I know I shouldn't be, afraid. I should be able to, call and, and not be afraid for my life or, fear for my life when we do have to engage with the police officer or law enforcement. But yeah.
I think that we look at law enforcement the way that honestly we feel they look at us, where if they meet a polite and well-mannered Black person, they look at it like, okay, finally we found one, and it's like an edge case. And I feel like that's how I look at law enforcement a little bit too, because I have family members who are police officers too, and I kind of look at them as the edge cases. Like, these are the law enforcement that we hope are on the streets, but fortunately we rarely ever see it with the cases that have been coming up.
Right.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of cases you guys been profiled, and just by the color of your skin or what neighborhoods you're driving in. What do you feel when other people look at you? Do you feel like you have to act a certain way or look a certain way to not get unwanted attention? Or do you, like, as being a Black woman, do you feel like you have to present yourself in a certain way that might not be your true self sometimes?
For me, for my job, most of the therapists I work with are not African American. So I feel like they're always looking at me, and I have to kind of prove that I, am worthy of my position. And they don't just take me as, okay, she's a great therapist. She knows what she's doing with her children. It's like, I'm always getting questioned, or, oh, how long have you been doing this? I've been doing this for 10 years. Thank you. So like, I always have to kind of, they're questioning my experience and questioning my, my job with my children. And some, I hate it sometimes. And it's like, I have to like prove to them that I'm, great at what I do. And And with the other Black therapists, we have a core, and we're tight. We support each other. And I mean, it's not all the other therapists, but sometimes when we go in meetings, it's like they're looking at me, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I have my stuff together, so you don't have to worry about me. So, but I always have to kind of think, okay, what are they going to say that'll try to put me down, but I have to, stay above and make sure that I am on my P's and Q's to kind of prove them wrong when it comes to how I interact with them during work. Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Shalina. With being a mental health therapist,
mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, as a part of my job, I will go and sit in, with different educators for a specific client if that's needed. And a lot of the times the faces that are around the table don't look like mine. Mm-hmm. And so it is, you always put that best foot forth, because you, in the back of your mind, you could sort of tell when someone's checking you out, right, and being like, oh, they don't know, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Let's just dismiss that. So then you do have to come and let them know that, no, I mean, and as Black women, I feel like we are experts. Like, we really are the real superheroes, because we have so many different identities that we have to navigate on a daily basis. And when we're in our professional settings, we have to be one way. And with being a mental health therapist and working with people, and predominantly the demographic that I work with are African American Black people. So when I'm in a meeting, I'm using all of the clinical vernacular that they want to use, and I can do that. Right. But when I'm speaking to my client, I'm speaking to them just like this. Hey, what's up? How you feeling? What's right. going on? Talk to me. Right. And to be able to navigate that is a skill that I feel Black women have just mastered. And the hats that we have to wear just to navigate, I feel like that originally was set up to be something for us to fail, was set up for failure. Like, oh, can you do this? How you speak, how you look. And granted, Pennsylvania just passed, the Crown Act. That's nice. But before that, I mean, you had to have it slick. You had to have it nice. You had to look a certain way, talk a certain way, just to be taken seriously in the room. Mm-hmm. And I feel like now, with all the work that Black women are putting in to not have a seat at the table, but to bring our own table and then invite people, okay, you can have a seat with me. Right. Like, how about you? You can come sit at my table. That's something that I feel is just dynamic. I feel like it is just awesome. And I can't help but just to think about how often Black women are told everything that we're being brought up to do, especially in mental health. I have to sort of I don't want to say deprogram, but in a way it is deprogram, because as little girls we're brought up, be strong. Don't let anybody see you cry. You don't got time to sit here and have all these feelings. Black women don't, get to go to the hospital for exhaustion. You don't get to be tired. You don't get to be sad. You don't need a man. We don't have time for that. And so I feel like when clients are coming in and I'm telling them, like, listen, sis, let it go. Like they say, bring it to the altar. No, bring it on here too. Mm-hmm. And talk about it. You bring it to the altar. Yes, leave it there, but then come here and talk about it too. I feel like it's something that only Black women can do. And there is something so powerful in having Black women in all areas of the work field, because you want someone that you can relate to and someone that understands the real struggle of being a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And only Black women know that. So mm-hmm. I think that's powerful.
We all snapping because we all feel what you're saying right now, because I know for me, I've always wanted to pursue the tech fields back when I was in college. And from college until now, I can literally count on one hand the amount of Black people that have ever been in a room with me. pursuing my fields. It's either one hand or less. I've been the only Black person in a lot of rooms trying to get to my fields. And from college, it's always been a separation of this is my business and then this is me. And so that split identity, I felt that because we always have to carry so many hats to be able to fit into a room. Mm-hmm. And that's been my experience throughout the tech field my entire life. I've worked in rooms where, and what's weird about my particular environments that I like to work in is that I like to work in tech environments that are more laid back, that like you to feel comfortable and that want you to feel a part of like the discussion. But at the same time, because of that culture, they want you to be like your authentic self at work. And it's like, y'all can't handle my authentic self at work, to be honest, because what makes the white people in my companies feel comfortable is not really the same of what I relate to from culture, from like music to movies and all of that. And normally like in a business environment, y'all don't talk about like what you do outside of work. But in these type of environments that I work in, that's very much so part of like how you excel in the work field by being liked and by being known. And so my first job when I was working in tech, I just would lie. Like they would go around talking about like what movies and bands that they like. And I'd be like, yeah, like Paramore and all this other stuff, like just throwing out whatever just to make some type of connection. Because I could tell like, if I started naming anybody in hip hop, Lauryn Hill, I actually said I went to a Lauryn Hill concert and I got blank stares from everybody in the room. And at that point I was like, you know, I'm just gonna keep this to myself and like not bring my whole self to work. And I used to joke around with my girlfriends where we'd be like 2 months until they see the real me, and that'd be our countdown when we start a new job. Because when I first started a job, maybe I'll shave my hair, I'll wear like more appropriate clothing that's easily acceptable and that's easy to swallow. And then when that 2 month hits, the hoops is coming out, the fro is coming out, like y'all gonna get all of me. Because after 2 months, I'm like, you're either gonna take it or leave it. So, yeah.
I think we've all hit it. I mean, I think I know for me, I subconsciously feel the need to prove some outdated stereotypes or some of those disrespectful nuances that people always try to throw at Black women, like the texture of our hair or what's considered professional in corporate world or how our clothes fit our curves. You know, I feel like we're always trying to that I'm always trying to make sure that folks don't really feel that's just what it is all the time when they meet a Black woman. So, but yeah, I think everybody hit it. I know that those are some of the experiences I've had as well.
Yeah, I'm curious now, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about Black women that you've ever heard said to you or you've seen? What are some of those misconceptions about Black women?
That we don't work out.
Yeah, my Instagram though.
Another misconception is that Black women are angry and loud and hurt.
Yeah, definitely overly aggressive has been something that I've been trying to work through my whole career, just because I'm a vocal person and I will definitely say my opinions, but trying to find ways to go about them to solve my problems. My first job was just a really tumultuous environment that it was not built for me to succeed in it. And I remember I had one of my bosses / mentors come to me and she said, you know, like, if you want to fit into this environment, like when you go into the kitchen and you're trying to open up a jar, like struggle with the jar and like ask my CEO to help me open it, or like have him help me so that I come off more of like a submissive, I need help woman. And I'm looking at her like, because at the time she's 5'7" and a small woman. And I'm like, I'm 5'9", and he sees me go to the gym every single day after work. So I'm not about to be in here struggling, trying to open jars to get his respect.
Right. Wow.
Wow, that just blew my mind. I might be one of those dumb guys, but I don't even think that thought didn't even cross my mind that has people tell you to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah, she was saying to like wear makeup and wear lipstick. And I think us as women, we know where looks can get us in certain environments, and how to carry ourselves to operate and move around certain things. But at the same time, like, you have to know your audience. And I could tell that he was someone who is not attracted to nor wants to even really be around a Black woman, but kind of was forced to. So it was one of those things where I had to remind her that your advice has to be for the right person, and that as a Black woman, I have certain burdens that my looks and that my personality will never allow me to overcome.
So we talked about so many things, misconceptions, being stereotyped, profiled, and we talked about a lot of the difficulties that Black women have to go through. But tell me this, what do you love about being a Black woman?
Everything.
Come on now.
Everything.
Because in my personal opinion, Black women are the most beautiful race of women in the world. So I know what I like about Black women, but I want to hear what you guys like about being a Black woman.
It's not even the outside. It's our internal strength. It's our sisterhood. It's how we support one another. It's how we overcome every obstacle that comes ahead of us, how we support everybody, even though we don't sometimes receive that support back. And we got the bodies, we got the hair, and we got the skin, so melanin and everything. But
so we are the most creative. I mean, you give us lemons, we make lemonade. You give us a slice of bread, we make a feast. I mean, we can just do so much with so little, even though, I think Alexis hit it before. We're just so dynamic. It's just unbelievable what we can do. And when we work together, I mean, it's a movement.
Right. Like the saying goes, Black girl magic. Like we have it all. Like we're supportive. We can hold households down, but we can also be independent ourselves. You know, we can, have our connections with God, but still connections with everybody else. And like Brittany was saying, just when we support each other, like, everybody can win. Everybody can like go to the top. And I just love hearing, Black women support and just be on, other people and not wanting them to just stay where they are, but just encouraging each other. And I love how Black women can do that. And it's just when you see, a Black woman and you see them working hard, you see them doing their thing, it's like, you want to do that too. You want to jump on that and be like, I could do that too. Because I'm just like her, and we have the same strength, we have the same talent, we have the same, stamina to get through. So I love us. I love being Black.
Yeah, I truly mean I love everything about the Black woman. Like, when I say there is no hype man like a Black woman, we can make you feel like $1 million and you doing nothing at all but blinking. Like, yeah, you better blink. You better blink. We really can bring, like, I think when God made the Black woman, he just put everything he had that was great and just said, boom, I'm done. Sprinkle everything up in there, everything. And I think a lot of the times we're looked at, like Chelsea was saying, for the outward things, like, yes, Black women, we have the most versatile, and we have there's so many different varieties from our skin tones. We have everything from, like, the caramel macchiato Black women to like the deep dark, 72% cocoa Black women. Just, and the outward appearances is one thing, but when you talk about the heart of the Black woman, like Brittany and Shalina was saying, the heart of the Black woman, the soul of a Black woman, there is nothing like it. And if you ain't never been loved by a Black woman, I feel for you.
And it's crazy because the Black woman experienced the plight of the Black man. Of course, the violence against Black men, we acknowledge that, and all Black women's hearts break for the Black man's struggle. But a Black woman experiences the same plights of a Black man, and we don't even experience the to be able to be seen as a victim like the white woman, to be able to be nurtured and to be able to be seen as someone who needs to be taken care of like the white woman does. Like, we are just one of those, I just feel like as a Black woman, we're one of those people that aren't given the identity that we deserve, to be able to be vulnerable and strong at the same time. And it's like, I feel like society is always making us have to choose one or the other. Like, we're either going to be a vulnerable, lazy, dependent Black woman, or we're going to be a strong, aggressive, violent Black woman. And we're never given the ability to just be both, and to be a strong woman who likes to be nurtured, who is caring, and who is generous. And I haven't met a Black woman yet who hasn't fit that description, but yet for some reason the stereotypes that society puts on us is so opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I would say even I would put it as sort of a misconception, but also I feel like it's taking the Black woman for granted would be the resilience of a Black woman. Because, and a lot of the times when I use resilience to describe maybe a family or a characteristic, we're saying you've been through so much, but you're still here. And that's true for the Black woman, but I feel like sometimes because of that, like Chelsea was saying, we're looked at as though that it's vulnerability is synonymous with weak, and it's not.
Right.
And Black women aren't allowed to be vulnerable because the world then would view us as weak. Mm-hmm. And if you're seen as weak, then you're seen as a victim or like prey. And you just can't be that as a Black woman, because there's so many things when you walk out the door, like Chelsea was saying, the plight of the Black man. But then on top of that, there's a lot that Black women experience that's not acknowledged. As far as trauma, generational trauma. Mm-hmm. And it's like we're not allowed to talk about it, because if you talk about it, then you're seen as vulnerable and weak. And so then you're just called resilient. And sometimes the word resilient, people feel like then you just don't have any feelings, and you're just hard, and you don't need anybody. You don't need any help. You don't need anybody to talk to. And that's just so false. Like, that's not true at all. So it's just.
Yeah. I love how a lot of you said the word support. And I was wondering, like, how could myself, or how does America support and uplift Black women? How do we change the narrative of what's been the norm for all these years? Is there a solution? Is there steps we can take? Like, how could we as Americans help support the Black woman?
Pay it forward. That was one of the biggest piece of advice that a mentor of mine gave to me, and it's to pay it forward. When you reach a point of success, or when you reach a point where you can give back to others, that's your time to do so. And that's something that I've like really ingrained in how I move as an individual. I've experienced all of the pitfalls in trying to excel in my career, and I felt like I did it without the support of a Black woman that I wish I had. I had other mentors who didn't look like me, and that, yes, it gave me motivation because they were women. But I know throughout my entire career, I was like, oh, I just wish there was a Black woman in my field that I could look up to that would offer me support. And when I reached a point in my career where I felt like I had advice or wisdom to give to others, that became my mission, to like diversify the tech field, to offer opportunities in the tech field. And like, I'm constantly reaching out to young Black women who are trying to pursue this field and just feel hopeless about it, or just feel like they don't belong there, and sharing my experiences and trying to motivate them to realize that they can accomplish anything. We have 5 or 4 women leaders on this call right now who have the ability to share their stories and share their voice and be able to inspire and uplift another Black woman to be able to succeed too.
One thing I was thinking of, what Americans can do, or just your friends or just your family, like if you see somebody putting a Black woman down, like if you see disrespect, if you see those negative or hear those negative stereotypes about Black women, you could check that and be like, nope, this woman is powerful. This woman, just maybe going through some stuff, and she, is on her way to greatness, or she's on her way to, she's already great, not even on her way, but already great. Kind of just putting the positivity on it instead of continuing to speak on the negative or the stereotypes of Black women. But just checking those negative talks and those negative things that Americans do regarding Black women, and kind of just putting the positive out there. And like this platform is putting that positive spin out there so that the world can see. We have enough negative images and, negative talk about Black women out there. So platforms like this and conversations with your family and your friends about how wonderful a Black woman is can help change that narrative and change, the negative talk about Black women.
Mm-hmm. This question was tough for me. Yeah, it was tough for me for some reason. But I think what the other ladies, I think my advice to non-Black folks would be to understand a little bit more of the intermingled mix of our identities. A lot of our experiences aren't just because we're women, or they're not just because we're Black. We're Black women. There's an intermingled layer that I think folks really need to understand about our experience and why we see things the way we do, and why our behaviors or inexperiences are what they are. I know, especially, I was just on a call about feminism a couple of days ago, and Rick, you don't have to put this in, but I was just on a call a couple of days ago about feminism, and I know that for white women, it's difficult for them to really understand that the feminist movement doesn't include people of color. The feminist movement was predicated on white women, and when I was talking about we need to understand intersectionality and how intersectional feminism plays a role, and it was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because they just weren't able to put the pieces together about the experiences of Black women. So I think that would be my biggest thing, is for them to educate and become a little more aware on how our intermingled identities really make us who we are.
I would say to America, how you can support Black women would be to acknowledge us and see us and hear us. Mm-hmm. And with that, I'll say to our Black men, acknowledge us, see us, and hear us. I've had plenty of conversations with some of my girlfriends and some of my guy friends about just Black women and dating, and especially, you have women right here on the call, very educated women, and statistics are showing how difficult it is the higher up a Black woman goes for her to find a Black spouse, a Black mate. And it's not because Black men aren't educated or Black men aren't pursuing careers. It's sometimes you reach a certain level in your career, and then the Black woman is seen as not good enough anymore to be a spouse. And that conversation always blows my mind, because, I have a Black son, and I want my Black son to, he can marry whoever he chooses, but I will say, don't bring her home, she can't use mama comb. But that's just my preference. But you go with who God made for you. Whatever rib God got for you, you go with. But just to see so many times, to see a lot of my friends, my Black female friends, and how hard it is for them to find a suitable mate, not because there aren't men out there, it's just because they're not desirable, they're not desired by men, and just to constantly be overlooked. That too is traumatic, and it's been generational to constantly be overlooked. You're only good for certain things, and I think we say a lot of the times in therapy, things have to start in-house for it to then develop and work out-house. And I do think Black men have to start to value the life of Black women a lot more than what has been done. And I think that they are doing it a little more now, but I think we have a long way to go with that within the community than for our, our fair-skinned brothers and sisters outside of our community to start to understand and really see us not as invisible beings or invisible worker bees, but as people who are valued, and we're just as desirable, we're just as sexy, we're just as intelligent, we're just as powerful as the next woman. So I think my concern or my sort of advice would go more so towards our Black men, like start to see us and value us more, so that the world will as well.
Yeah, I felt that what you were talking about when it came to dating, because being a young woman, I've just always been really driven in my career to succeed, and that's been my focus. And that's the reason why I've had to date older, because typically men who are my age or a little bit younger than me, I've noticed, especially now in my career, that it just brings intimidation. And with intimidation and insecurities comes problems with just the ability to follow through and like just getting the respect that I deserved in the relationship, because I just noticed that because I was doing well in my career, they felt that they needed to bring me down in some other area, whether it was like just making me feel like I wasn't special or deserved the treatment that I should, because they felt less than in some other area. And I'm the type of person that like, I will never look down on someone in their career as long as I know they're pushing themselves and driving towards some type of ambition. But I noticed that not all Black men, but some Black men can be intimidated by a woman's success and feel like they have to bring her down in some kind of way. And it's important to like support them and realize that like if she's doing good, you're doing good. Like y'all should be striving to do good together.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Give me a second, because I felt attacked. So no, that's really good stuff. I don't want to. I know our time's running out, but I definitely have to bring up the Black woman I love the most, and that is my mother. I've seen her go through a lot of mess, to say the least, and her strength, her resiliency, her determination on one hand, but then her love towards me on the other, how she has managed all of it and still had the capacity to love so hard on me. She's a superhero to me. And even when I'm dating, I'm looking, dating with a purpose, and I'm looking for qualities that I've seen in my mom and other women. And honestly, to manage all that, I've only seen it in Black women. And I don't know if that's, just me. I don't know what psych term that might be with me and my mom, but I'm not going to go that far. But honestly, I don't think there's anyone, and Alex said it earlier, who can manage all things, who can, turn this off, turn this on, be loving, but be strong, be sensitive, but be tough, than a Black woman. So I'm just amazed, honestly. And just watching the four of you grow in your careers and your relationships and in life has just been an honor. You guys have really helped me to become a stronger Black man just by being in front. Just watching you guys, the way you walk, your consistency, your drive, your ambition, and just watching from afar has actually bettered me. So I definitely want to shout you guys out for that, just for being consistent. So thank you. And thank you for joining for me this episode. Is there any last words that you want to say, that you want to get out to the people?
This has been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Seriously, guys, I really appreciate this. I know the topic of Brianna Taylor has really had people high on emotions, anger, traumatic. You think about all the people who've been, treated wrong by police, and the people who haven't got, what they deserved. But there's also a silver lining. I do see a trend. The attention that the case got was like it was so strong, from celebrities to athletes to community leaders. But the fact that nothing happened, that is crazy. But I feel like we've never got this attention this much. So that is the kind of silver line like this. I feel like we're trending up, and I pray that God moves in every situation from here on out. But with that being said, thank you guys. Thank you, ladies, for coming out. I really appreciate you. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you heard, please hit like. If you want to see more, subscribe. We'll drop new videos every Tuesday. Thank you all for watching again. Put in the comment section, what do you want to talk about next, all right? And then we'll talk about it just for you, all right? Share this video on Facebook, YouTube, share it with your neighbor. And until next time, see you guys. Peace. Bye.
It's a very serious headshot he has.
Yes.